The easiest way to educate yourself is YouTube. Like, use the resources that we have available. There's Google, there's YouTube, there are different articles, there are different people. Ask questions. But definitely go out and educate yourself. And let's be great, man. Let's take care of our mental health. Let's get it. Just had a conversation with my boy Dion. Appreciate you, my brother. Love you, bro. He was just giving me some motivation, some encouragement on finishing strong when it comes to school. So, man, it's always good to know that I have people that I can talk to, I can connect with, where I can just be transparent and share some of the struggles that I'm going through in the moment, and then also being able to get some advice or even just another perspective on how I can think of something differently. So yeah, it's always good for your mental health, man, just that social support and having someone that you can connect with and who can pour into your life. So yeah, I want to share that. Let's get it. Some of the common mental health myths that we had was you are weak if you're depressed, that mental disorders are signs of personality flaws, and if someone wants to be happy, they can be happy, and you cannot recover from mental health problems or disorders. If you ignore the problem and use willpower, the problem will simply go away.
Can you repeat that one?
If someone wants to be happy, they can be happy.
Yeah. I think that's a good one because a lot of people don't understand that, yes, even though you have the power to change your life and create new habits and move towards becoming a happier person, when you have a mental illness, it's not just I'm gonna wake up today and have the willpower.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot of support from external sources, like going to therapy and stuff like that, and being around friends and stuff. Because when you're in a position like that, when you have a mental illness or you're struggling with your mental health, you're not weak, but you're in a situation of help.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot do it by yourself. Yes, you can be happy, absolutely. We can all get there, but it's not just oh, if I wanted to, I can.
Yeah, and there's also this misconception, which is that, but it's a misconception because not everyone has experienced a mental illness, and so they don't understand that when you are suffering from a mental illness, you can't just switch.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
it's
you
not
don't,
you snap out of it.
Yeah, and people don't get it unless they experience it. But even with me, before experiencing severe depression, I believe if you want to be happy, you can just be happy. Do stuff that make you feel good. Do stuff that make you feel happy. But you also have to be mindful that if someone is dealing with a mental illness, it's different. They aren't at a point mentally where they can just be happy.
It's also that notion of
disorder, but I'm just gonna go through a brief definition. So bipolar disorder is also known as manic depressive illness. It is a brain disorder that causes unusual shifts in mood, energy, activity levels, and the ability to carry out day-to-day tasks. And then there are different types. So bipolar 1 disorder, bipolar 2 disorder, cyclothymic disorder, and then there are other specified and unspecified bipolar and related disorders.
I think that our culture struggles with the understanding that we are complex creatures, and our minds and our personalities and who we are a construct of many different things. And I think the reason people don't acknowledge mental health is because they think oh well, this is who I am and I stay like this forever. But what they don't understand is in many different stages of your life, you can struggle with a mental illness, and it can be a different type of mental illness. Like maybe when you're a kid, you suffer from anxiety. Maybe when you grow up and you're a teenager or you're an adult, you suffer from depression. And then maybe something happens later in your life and you suffer from anxiety again, or an eating disorder, or like it's not like a flu, like it's not like the cold because you just don't get it like because it's a virus, you know what I mean? But it happens because something happened in your life that made that happen. Just like the flu happens because you got some bacteria somewhere along your life. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like any other illnesses, and a lot of it doesn't represent who you are. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that you are struggling with depression, that has nothing to do with who you are as your core. It just has something to do with like something that happened in your life, and maybe then you weren't equipped with the tools necessary to take care of your mental health. But now you know that you're struggling, you know that that's something, like it's literally an opportunity for you to realize that there's so much more that you can improve, literally. Like when you had depression, you didn't know that there were so many things in your life that you weren't taking care of, that you didn't know about, that you were ignorant about. And like you struggle with depression, and yeah, it was a like dark and terrible time for your life, but now you're a much smarter person, you're a much stronger, you're like much more well-rounded, and you're much stronger emotionally.
I think those who suffer with a mental illness and work towards recovery and healing and bounce back from stages and seasons like that are really strong people, because you literally have to let go of who you once were and recreate a whole new, not identity, but like a whole new being, pretty much. Like who I was before depression is not who I am now. And like you said, well-rounded, I am very much well-rounded, way more self-aware. I'm way more mindful of how I feel, what I want to do, what I want in life, what's important to me. Like even the decision to come to college to study IT, all I was thinking about was money. Like I wasn't thinking about what really makes me feel good, what really makes me feel like I'm making an impact. That wasn't in my mind, and it couldn't come into my mind based on how I was living and who I was. Not saying I was a bad person, but depression made me realize what's really important. Because when you get to the lowest and darkest point of your life and you really ask yourself, okay, what is my life really about? Like, what did I actually do that's meaningful? It makes you question that. And every day when I wake up, and even more grateful, like when I wake up and I say, thank you, Abishua, for another day. Thank you, Abishua, for another opportunity. I mean that genuinely. I'm not just saying it. Like, I literally mean it, because I thought depression was going to take my life at some point. So I'm a whole different being. Like, things don't get to me as much. Things don't get me mad as much. Like, I'm more like level-headed. I can see beyond my current situation. So like, yeah, when you say that, it makes me really think like, yeah, people who go through different mental illnesses and mental health struggles, they're the real strong ones. They're the strong ones. The ones who never experience that, they may be strong, but there's a level of mental strength and emotional strength that once you develop that, you're unstoppable. Not saying that I'll never, there's no possibility for me to ever go back into a depressive state, because if I don't maintain, then I can't.
Yeah.
If I act like depression never happened and I do the things that I did before, then there's a possibility. But I won't go back there because I know how to maintain.
Yeah.
I'm mindful of it. So. It's about, when it comes to mental illness, when it comes to a mental health struggle, if for some reason you have never been educated on what symptoms to look out for mental illness, right? You've never been exposed to it. No one that you have known, you don't know anyone that has ever been diagnosed, right? then there's no way that you can either identify, become aware of what you're struggling with to then get the help that you need. So it's very important when it comes to mental health, when it comes to mental illness and any disorders. It's very important to understand what they are. Like that's the simplest way to put it. You know what the symptoms of a flu and of a cold are, right? You get an itchy throat, runny nose, you got the cough, you got a fever. You know what the symptoms are when you have a flu. What are the symptoms when you're struggling with depression? See, that's something that we have to change, because we see physical illness or the flu as more significant than a mental illness, depression or anxiety. But just like we know how to identify the flu and then get the proper treatment for the flu, we should know how to identify any mental illness so we can get proper treatment for it. So I wanted to share that because we just had this discussion, and I think it's very important. And the easiest way to educate yourself is YouTube. Like, use the resources that we have available. There's Google, there's YouTube, there are different articles, there are different people. Ask questions, but definitely go out and educate yourself. Now let's be great, man. Let's take care of our mental health. Let's get it. Peace. All right. So, made some connections at the Active Minds Conference this weekend. So, sending out some emails, see how I can come out as a speaker, different student groups. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. All right, let's see.